SCP-106 breaches. SCP-106 is basically a crusty, oil-slicked grandpa who treats physics like a suggestion rather than a rule. This dude is a total nightmare for anyone nearby because he's covered in a black sludge that melts everything like it's cheap plastic. The drama kicks off when the Foundation's magnets, which are supposed to keep him hovering like a levitating magician, go haywire. Once that power dips, the old man just sinks into the floor like he's entering a secret tunnel in Among Us. He's not just leaving his room, he's dragging people into his pocket dimension. A place that makes the Upside Down from Stranger Things look like a 5-star resort. The second he's out, the facility turns into a total sweat fest. The MTF squads roll in looking all tough, but how do you fight a guy who no-clips through the ceiling? It's a literal war zone where the hallways are rotting, and the walls are weeping black goo. You're checking your corners, thinking you're safe, and then, bam! Grandpa yanks your buddy into a puddle. It's like playing a horror game on insane difficulty where the map itself is trying to eat you. So the Foundation has trillion-dollar tech, but a soggy old man still treats their base like a playground. Talk about a major fail. Watching a high-tech facility melt into black soup is basically the ultimate bro moment. All those fancy sensors are useless once Grandpa decides to go for a stroll. If the floor looks melty, you're already cooked. SCP-682 test failures. SCP-682, who is basically a giant prehistoric predator that's perpetually done with humanity. The nightmare starts when scientists try to play hero and delete SCP-682 using other anomalies like SCP-173. These plans always faceplant. Instead of dying, SCP-682 just gets annoyed, adapts on the fly, and grows extra limbs or armor like a final boss. When these tests fail, it's not just a small leak, it's an explosion that turns the entire lab into a scrapyard. Once he's out of the acid tank, the site shifts into a full-blown total war zone. The Foundation has to spam soldiers into the fray, but it's a total meat grinder. Imagine a tactical game where the enemy has an unlimited blood bar and evolves every time you land a hit. Just one of these messy tests. 11 people were wiped out, and 86 others were left in critical condition. It's a cycle of non-stop combat where staff are fighting a losing battle against a monster that treats bullets like a rice dot. While this usually stays inside one building, the carnage is insane. If the organization doesn't quickly get this enraged lizard back in the bathtub, it could wreak havoc globally in ways no one could have imagined. It really makes you wonder why they keep poking the lizard when all the tests failed. At this point, SCP-682 isn't just a prisoner, he's a one-man army winning a war against the entire facility. SCP-096 Incident 0961-A, SCP-096, and this is where a tiny oopsie turns into a global bloodbath. The catastrophe kicks off because of a massive containment failure. A single, blurry photo of SCP-096's face leaked into the public. The second a civilian glances at those 4 pixels, literally just 4, the shy guy turns into an unstoppable juggernaut. He starts ripping through the Foundation's walls like they're made of wet paper. This isn't just a local breach, it's a cross-country sprint of destruction that the Foundation completely failed to predict or stop in time. This failure quickly escalates into a total war scenario. And trust me, it gets messy. To keep the world from finding out, the Foundation has to deploy thousands of troops to clean up entire towns and hunt down anyone who might have seen the image. You heard that right. It's a massive, violent cover-up that triggers intense armed conflicts with world governments and rival groups like the Chaos Insurgency. You've got fighter jets screaming overhead and MTF squads engaging in street-to-street combat just to stop a chain reaction of people looking at a screen. Even though the planet didn't explode, the body count reached the thousands, forcing the Foundation into a brutal shadow war against the rest of the world. If the shy guy is on the move, the total war isn't just coming, it's already at your front door. My dude. Siege of Site-19. Siege of Site-19, which is basically the Foundation's worst home invasion nightmare coming to life. The chaos starts because Site-19, the Foundation's biggest and supposedly safest base, had some massive security flaws that got totally exposed. A coalition of rival groups, like the Chaos Insurgency and the Church of the Broken God, decided to squad up just to exploit these weaknesses. This wasn't some sneaky break-in, it was a full-blown raid where 5,000 soldiers swarmed the facility. They brought gear that shreds armor and hypnotic tech to scramble people's brains. Seriously, having your own unbreakable base turned against you is a total bro moment. This massive failure instantly spiraled into a total war zone. The Foundation had to spam every MTF unit they had into the meat grinder just to hold the line. We're talking about non-stop firefights in the cafeterias and explosions in the containment wings. In the end, the defense completely crumbled, and the Foundation had to surrender, letting the most dangerous entities on the planet walk right out the front door. Losing Site-19 wasn't just a bad day, it was a total collapse of the Foundation's power. With hundreds of guards dead and the most secure cells sitting empty, the world's final boss of containment got absolutely bodied in its own house. The war didn't just stay at the border, it moved into the hallways, and the Foundation officially lost the keys to its own kingdom. SCP-008 SCP-008, the OG zombie virus that turns any lab mistake into a literal apocalypse. The nightmare starts with a classic security fail. A lab leak or some straight-up sabotage releases SCP-008 into the air or water supply. Unlike the movies, where you have time to pack a bag, this virus spreads faster than a leaked DM. 1 minute you're doing science, and the next, your coworkers are trying to have you for lunch. It's a total yikes moment because the Foundation's high-tech filters clearly skipped their last service check. This failure quickly turned into a total war situation across the entire planet. To stop the spread, the Foundation starts culling. This obviously doesn't sit well with world governments or groups like the UNGOC, who aren't exactly fans of the Foundation playing God with a flamethrower. Suddenly, you've got global quarantine wars and civil unrest breaking out everywhere. It's not just humans versus zombies, it's everyone versus everyone in a chaotic battle for survival. The body count hits millions as entire countries turn into active war zones. This failure proves that the Foundation's secure. Contain, protect motto is useless. Once the virus enters the water source, the organization becomes just as vulnerable as humans. If your neighbor starts acting a bit bitey, my dude, the total war is already in your backyard, and the Foundation has officially lost control. Chaos Insurgency Civil War. Chaos Insurgency Civil War is the Foundation's version of a toxic breakup that turned into a full-blown civil war. The disaster kicks off with a massive top 10 anime betrayals moment. A bunch of staff decided they were done with the Foundation, stole some powerful SCPs, and formed the Chaos Insurgency. This wasn't just quitting a job, it was like a pro-team player stealing all the high-tier loot and starting a rival clan. Because of lazy security and internal drama, the Foundation's own secrets and weapons were suddenly being used against them. The calls were literally coming from inside the house. My dude. This failure instantly triggered a total war that lasted for years. We're talking about a brutal conflict filled with raids and assassinations. To deal with these X's, the Foundation had to go full Call of Duty mode, deploying MTF Nu-7 with tanks and helicopters to hunt down their former coworkers. It was a high-stakes mess where both sides knew each other's moves, turning every facility into a chaotic team deathmatch. By the time it ended, the body count hit the thousands, and the Foundation was changed forever. This war proved that the biggest threat isn't always a giant monster. Sometimes it's just your snake coworkers. It was a total collapse of trust that left the organization scarred and paranoid. When your own squad turns into the final boss, you know you've officially messed up. SCP-9009 Wildfire September Tango. Wildfire September Tango Incident, which is basically what happens when the Foundation plays a game of the floor is lava and actually loses. The failure here is straight-up nightmare fuel. We're talking about an anomaly known as SCP-9009, an entity that can spread through information itself, like a viral post that you can't scroll past. The containment failed so hard because someone probably didn't double-check their security protocols, allowing this thing to leak into the global data stream. It's like a computer virus. But instead of just breaking your PC, it breaks reality. Imagine a leaked video that literally ends the world the second you hit play. This mistake quickly turned into a total war for the planet's survival. The Foundation didn't just send one squad, they went into maximum panic mode, deploying every resource to shut down the internet and wipe out entire communication hubs. It was a race against time, with MTF teams fighting desperate battles to silence anyone who had seen too much. Think of it like a global cyberpunk war where the enemy is an invisible code, and the soldiers are frantically trying to unplug the world before it's too late. The carnage was insane, with entire cities being blacked out and thousands of data cleansing operations turning into bloody skirmishes. This failure proved that in the digital age, a single bad link can be more dangerous than a giant lizard. The Foundation almost lost the entire war to a piece of information they couldn't control. My dude, next time you see a suspicious click here link, just remember that the Foundation might have to start a war just to delete it for you. SCP-8343, Mount Golgotha Dragon Breach. Mount Golgotha Dragon Breach, which is basically what happens when the Foundation tries to keep a literal raid boss in a basement, and the basement finally gives out. The failure at Mount Golgotha was massive. Imagine a high-security prison built inside a mountain, but the inmate is SCP-8343, a dragon-like entity so huge it makes a Boeing 747 look like a mosquito. The containment system didn't just glitch, it completely shattered. Letting this beast claw its way out, it was like the ground itself opened its mouth to scream. If you think your Monday morning is rough, try being the guy who had to report to your boss that a mountain-sized dragon just no-clipped out of reality and into the sky. This breakout triggered a total war that looked like Avengers Endgame, but with zero plot armor. The Foundation went full gamer rage, spamming everything they had. MTF Squad started blasting experimental railguns while calling in airstrikes with missiles powerful enough to crack the Earth's crust. Even the GOC joined the server, bringing mecha suits and reality anchors to pin the beast down. The sky became a chaotic fireworks show as Foundation and GOC jets swarmed like angry bees. It was a peak raid boss moment where even toxic rivals had to team up to stop this OP lizard from turning Earth into a BBQ pit. The finale was a total bloodbath. Entire divisions got deleted, and the mountain was erased before the beast was finally kicked back into its hole. It's a GG for the Foundation, proving their walls are just paper when the mountain starts breathing fire. SCP-2317, the Devourer Chain Break. SCP-2317 is a colossal interdimensional primeval entity trapped within a decaying reality behind a mystical wooden door. The catastrophe began when Procedure 220 Calabasas, the ritual meant to keep the entity's 7 chains intact, became a total lie. This organization knew the chains were crumbling, but they still staged the ceremony to deceive the world into believing that everything is fine. When the last chain snapped, the Devourer was like a beast unleashed, freeing itself and forcing the organization into faster-than-the-Flash mode. Surely nobody wants to participate in this free race, right? This twist sparked an all-out multiverse war, forcing the Foundation to form an emergency survival team with the GOC and even the Church of the Broken God. Forces from every timeline were mobilized, as if both Marvel and DC were participating in the same war. We can call it absolute chaos, and guess what the consequences are? Entire dimensions were wiped out, and reality itself began to fade into nothingness. The SCP Foundation would likely remain a superhero if no one knew about these failures. And if one day the sky starts cracking like your screen, then run. SCP-1178, Floating Nuclear Missile. SCP-1178, a Soviet-era nuclear missile hovering in midair that gets triggered if anyone dares to invade its personal space. One single slip-up in containment sparked this catastrophe, and honestly, I don't know how many more times the Foundation plans to fumble the bag. But this was a losing hand from the start. This thing emits ghost signals to gaslight every radar on Earth into thinking a massive nuclear strike is happening. It's like being blinded by a ghost. This catfishing stunt ignited a global total war. Both NATO and the Soviets fell straight into a psychological trap, convinced the other side had already pulled the trigger. Terrified of being wiped out first, they both panicked and pressed all the buttons, launching their entire nuclear arsenals. With every radar screen showing thousands of incoming targets, you can't blame them for losing their minds. The Foundation could only watch from their bunkers because popping their heads out would mean an instant endgame. The finale was pretty predictable. Congrats. Billions of people were vaporized as the sky turned into a wall of fire. The world ended because of a laggy radar and a floating metal tube that knew how to lie. When the global censors start screaming about nukes that don't exist, my dude, the lobby is officially closed and there's no respawn button for this planet.